This concert's program could be categorized as an exploration of cultural synthesis. East meets West, traditional flamenco that's written for classical guitar technique, Hindustani and Western music and conversation, and a solo for European piano, but influenced by the music of indigenous Americans. But this is a bit of an oversimplification. I think part of our natural human inclination is to simplify our understanding of the world and split things into comfortable and clear binaries, even when what we're looking at is actually much more complicated. And I think an idea like identity, cultural identity, is something that I would certainly put in the more complicated category. I've actually recently heard that describing America as a melting pot has become a bit out of vogue. And instead, I hear it called a mosaic or a salad. I've called it a pizza. And I think on the level of our national culture, there is something to these various metaphors. But on the individual level, the melting pot analogy feels accurate. I'll give you an example. Being a first-generation American, people used to ask me, do you feel more American or more Middle Eastern? It's a classic this or that question, which absolutely haunted me in my youth. And there was something that happened in my teenage years, a funny coincidence, that gave me a much clearer understanding of how I might navigate that sense of multicultural identity. So when I turned 16 in what I see as a perfect East meets West moment, my parents independently gave me the same gifts for my birthday. It was an English translation of the Sufi mystic poet Rumi and a copy of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. And I took this strange coincidence as a sign, as one does, and I read both with a great deal of special attention. And perhaps it's because of how they came into my life together, but when I read these poets, separated by centuries, continents, and culture, I see the same spirits in their words. It's true, their poetry is framed by contrasting time and place, but the underlying energy, the reverence for the sacredness of this world, great and small, points at the same truth. Their understanding of who we are in relationship to the mystery with a capital M, is both the inner and outer mystery, gave me a deeper understanding of myself, and I think that ineffable truth. And here's the thing about truth with a capital T. Both the spiritual kind and the truth of who we are is like a diamond. It's multifaceted, it's refracted, it's complex. It's both multitudinous and one single unified thing, an understanding that is complete and whole in its multiplicity. And I'm not sure any one culture or one spiritual tradition can claim the whole of that truth. My own cultural identity is not a this or a that, or even a this and that. It's a combination of a very mixed Middle Eastern heritage, plus the Pacific Northwest where I grew up, plus the Filipino family that I married into, and 100 other cultural touch points that have created a unique goulash that is who I am, one that is constantly growing in its density and complexity. And my spiritual beliefs are similar. They are slowly revealed through every artistic encounter and religious teaching, or any other sacred experience that seems to point at a deeper understanding of that truth, even when they seem to clash up against each other. If our personal identities and beliefs are, in fact, an amalgamation of the ideas that we've previously encountered and consciously or unconsciously synthesized, perhaps it's not so surprising that two American middle-aged men of European descent, John Harbison and Robert Bly, would choose to engage with the writings of Mirabai, a 16th century Bhakti saint, through their music and poetry. How we navigate these beliefs and values, the ones that speak loudest to us in this increasingly interconnected world, can spark uneasy conversations around cultural ownership and appropriation. And I think it's not anything new to reach outside of your own tradition to seek other facets of that diamond of truth. Every society has had people who feel a natural inclination towards philosophies and practices that contrast with their own cultural background. The Puritans had their secret pagans and witches. Protestant America in the 1950s and 60s had an explosion of interest in Buddhism and Hinduism. On the other hand, in 2019, there was a film, Blinded by the Light, about a young Pakistani man in England who found the perfect expression of his worldview in the music of Bruce Springsteen. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend the movie. My point is that sometimes what speaks to our souls chooses us. And who we are is not one or the other, but both at the same time, and also somewhere in the space between, and a whole lot more. As Walt Whitman would say, do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. In Rina Esmail's notes to the performers about the space between, she is explicitly inviting to Western singers and Hindustani singers and those familiar with both musical practices to bring the piece to life and be, and I quote, confident in their interpretation of the piece. I think we can learn something from her invitation and honor those who feel a connection to something new and want to bring it into their own life, even if it's not from a culture or tradition that they grew up with. Mirabai reflects this understanding. Her poetry is a declaration of her spiritual marriage to Lord Krishna. It is both sensual and holy, a bringing together, a joining, a union. We're not just finding our way between body and spirit. We are body and spirit together, a complex being greater than the sum of our parts, while also individually part of something greater than ourselves. It's not a contradiction, it's a majestic truth. It's an understanding that cannot be reversed once we've experienced it for ourselves. Or as Mirabai says, I have felt the swaying of the elephant's shoulders, and now you want me to climb on a mule? Try to be serious. Consider for a moment what is possible when you step towards that big, messy truth, the one that doesn't fit inside boxes that we love so well. What might you see when you step into that open field, the center of the circle, the space between all those things?